Welcome to Paranoia Nights Tales. Before we begin, let your body find a position that feels easy enough to stay in for a long while. You don't have to make it perfect, just a little more comfortable than a moment ago is already enough. As you settle, you might notice how the room around you is beginning to grow a little quieter, as if the walls and objects and air itself have decided to move more slowly, just to match the rhythm you are starting to fall into. There are small sounds somewhere nearby, the faint hum of a fan, the gentle breathing of an air conditioner, maybe a car passing far away, its presence already fading even before you fully register it. None of these sounds need your attention. They are like a soft, steady backdrop, an old familiar lullaby made from distant engines and turning blades and quiet circuits. They simply keep going, steady and low, so your mind doesn't have to. Any light left in the room, whether it is a lamp dimmed down, the glow from a hallway, or only a suggestion of shapes in the dark, begins to soften. Edges blur, shadows lose their sharpness. The boundary between your body and the surface beneath you feels less precise. Your shoulders don't have to hold anything up. Your hands don't have to do anything clever. Your thoughts don't have to solve or fix or remember. They can drift a little further away with each slow breath out. Inhale gently, without forcing more air than wants to come in. Notice how the breath arrives by itself. Exhale just as slowly, and imagine a very small weight sliding down and out of your chest, like a grain of sand leaving an hourglass. Another breath in, filling only as much as feels easy. Another breath out, letting something else you were holding onto all day quietly sink away. You don't have to name what you're letting go of. You don't have to understand it. You only have to allow the movement, in and out, rise and fall, gathering and releasing. As your breathing gradually finds its own slow pattern, you may feel as if the air in the room has grown thicker and warmer, like a soft, invisible blanket. It does not press on you. It supports you. It accepts the weight of your body without complaint. Every minute that passes, your muscles find one more small part of themselves they can stop clenching. The jaw loosens. The space between your eyebrows smooths out. The tongue settles quietly in your mouth. Even the tiny muscles around your eyes, which have worked all day, begin to rest. Somewhere just behind the familiar walls of your room, beyond the ordinary shape of your ceiling and floor, there is another place. It does not exist on any map. It does not belong to any particular city or country. It waits in the thin distance between one heartbeat and the next. This is the archive of lost hours, a vast, hidden storehouse where the hours you once lived but never quite remembered are gently kept. Not because you did anything wrong, not because you failed, simply because the day moved on and your life moved with it, and that single fragile hour slipped from your hands without you noticing. Tonight, as your mind drifts closer to sleep, the path to that archive opens again. You don't have to walk there. You don't have to picture every step. You only have to rest and let the story carry you, the way a slow river carries a leaf, while your body stays exactly where it is, sinking deeper into the mattress or the sofa or the place that holds you. Another part of you will be allowed to wander, quietly, safely, down a long forgotten corridor of time. Somewhere inside that silent place there is a box with your name on it. Not the name people call you by now, not the labels or roles you wear during the day, but a softer, older version of who you are, written in the language of your memories. Inside that box, there is an hour. It is always 01:06 p.m., an ordinary afternoon, simple and small, that you once spent waiting for something that never quite arrived. You don't remember it clearly. You were never meant to carry all of it. But the hour remembers you, and tonight, slowly, gently, we will visit it together. As the last traces of waking thought drift to the edges of your mind, the room around you begins to dissolve in a way that feels natural, as if it has done this many times before. The softness beneath your body remains, but the sense of distance changes, and the darkness takes on a new depth, quiet, gentle, almost like a slow-moving tide. In that depth, a faint glow begins to appear, not bright enough to startle you, only bright enough to guide your attention, the way a lantern guides someone who has already walked the path dozens of times. The light grows into the outline of a long corridor. Its walls seem carved from something old, wood, perhaps, or stone that has known many seasons, but no matter how closely you try to focus on it, the material softens again, slipping back into suggestion. Dust hangs in the air, not falling, not rising, simply suspended in a stillness that feels older than memory. The floor beneath your feet isn't cold or warm. It is the exact temperature of forgetting, that quiet neutrality where nothing hurts and nothing demands anything from you. There are shelves along the hallway, stretching farther than your eyes can follow. They tilt slightly inward, like the walls of an ancient archive built to protect whatever lies within. Rows and rows of small, worn boxes rest upon them, each marked with symbols that are familiar without being readable. Some lines curve like the edge of a leaf. Others bend like faded handwriting you once learned but no longer remember. They glow faintly, as if each box holds a tiny ember of an hour that once carried weight in someone's life. Your footsteps make no sound as you begin to move, or rather, as the corridor slowly slides toward you, carrying you forward without effort. The air has a warm, dusty scent, like paper that has absorbed sunlight for decades, or the inside of a drawer you haven't opened since childhood. It is calming, ancient, and strangely intimate, as though the archive knows you better than you know yourself. Somewhere deeper in the hall, a lantern glimmers, a steady, golden light that does not flicker. It grows clearer with each slow breath you take, until it becomes the silhouette of a figure standing in the distance. The Archivist. Not a person in the ordinary sense, but an old presence shaped by patience and silence. His movements are unhurried. Even the way he raises the lantern feels like part of a ritual that has been repeated for centuries. You cannot see his face clearly, only the suggestion of soft lines, a bowed head, and hands that have held time itself with infinite care. When he speaks, his voice does not echo. It simply settles into the space between you and the shelves, as though the hallway has been waiting to carry his words to you. "You've come back," he says, quietly, not surprised, not excited, only acknowledging a truth that has been waiting to unfold. One of your hours is restless tonight. It has been calling for you. He turns slightly, lifting the lantern so that its light brushes over the nearest shelves. The boxes tremble very gently, not from movement, but from recognition, as if they are aware of who you are. The archivist runs the back of his fingers across one of the shelves, disturbing a thin layer of golden dust that doesn't fall to the floor, but drifts upward, shimmering softly. "There is an hour you lived long ago," he continues, "an hour you set down without noticing. It has waited quietly in this place where forgotten moments come to rest." He begins walking, and you follow, though your feet barely move. A small hour, a soft hour, an hour of waiting. As you move deeper, the corridor narrows slightly, then widens again, like a slow breath. The archivist stops before a shelf positioned slightly lower than the others, almost at heart level. His lantern dimly illuminates a single box resting in the center. Its surface is worn smooth as if many warm hands once held it, though you cannot imagine ever touching it before. And yet, something inside you responds, a small, distant tug, like the faint memory of sunlight on a particular afternoon you never thought to recall. The archivist places his lantern on the shelf beside the box. The light settles around it like a veil, revealing the inscription on the lid. It is not your name, not as you know it anyway. It is the shape of your name, as it once felt, written in the script of a younger version of you, one who still believed small moments could last forever, simply because you wished they would. "This is your hour," the archivist murmurs, "or 1:06 p.m. You don't reach for the box. You don't need to." The archivist places both hands on the lid, his movements slow enough for your breath to fall into rhythm with them. "Shall we open it together?" he asks. And the hallway grows even quieter, waiting for the hour inside to breathe again. The archivist rests his fingertips against the lid for a moment, as if listening to something inside, something quiet, something patient, something that has waited far too long without complaint. You feel a faint shift in the air, not a breeze exactly, but the subtle change that happens when a memory that has remained dormant begins to stir. The lantern beside you seems to dim slightly, not because its flame weakens, but because the hour inside the box draws the light toward itself, the way afternoon sunlight leans toward a window it once knew. When the archivist finally lifts the lid, he does so slowly, with a care that feels ceremonial. The hinges make no sound. Instead, a soft glow rises from within, the color of warm daylight filtered through thin curtains, not bright, not sharp. Just a gentle radiance that settles over your skin like the memory of a summer afternoon long before you learned how to rush through time. The glow expands, and for a moment you feel suspended between where you stand and where the hour is trying to lead you. It is not pulling. It is inviting. It is offering itself back to you with the same quiet grace it had when it first belonged to you. Inside the box, you see not objects, but impressions. Shapes that drift, tilt, and settle again. A sliver of a window frame. a blurred outline of a wooden chair, the faint suggestion of dust floating in a sunbeam. These fragments are not complete because the memory itself was never kept that way. What you left here was not a story, but a sensation, a mood, a way the world felt at exactly 01:06 p.m. on a forgotten day. The archivist lowers his voice. You were waiting, he says, not as a revelation, but as a simple truth. Not with fear, not with urgency, only with the soft expectation that something small might happen, something gentle, something you hoped for, though you were never quite sure what it was. The glow lifts from the box and begins to form a doorway, its edges unfocused, shimmering like heat over pavement, yet cool to the touch. Beyond it lies a room that is not quite fully formed. It is both familiar and distant, like a dream stitched together from pieces of an afternoon you once lived without realizing how quietly it marked you. You step toward the doorway. The archivist remains behind you, not following, not retreating, simply staying where he has always been, the guardian of all the hours you could not carry with you. Go gently, he murmurs. This hour has waited long enough. It will remember you, even if you do not remember it. Crossing the threshold feels less like walking and more like sinking into a warm pool. The air shifts temperature, no longer the dusty stillness of the archive, but the soft warmth of an ordinary afternoon. A muted brightness fills your vision, the kind that comes from sunlight passing through thin curtains. The scent changes too, something faintly wooden, mixed with a trace of old paper, and the hint of a room left closed for a short while, not long enough to feel abandoned, only long enough to carry a gentle quiet. The room forms around you with a slow, patient clarity. A chair, a table, a half-full glass of water catching the light in a dull glimmer. A window with worn edges. The pattern of sunlight on the floor, pale gold, slightly uneven. And there, in the center of it all, the stillness of waiting. Not the heavy kind that grips the chest, but the light kind that simply fills time when you are young enough to believe that even silence might blossom into something. You recognize pieces of the room without being able to explain how. The color of the curtain, the height of the table, the particular tilt of the sunlight. Nothing stands out sharply, and yet everything feels strangely yours, as if memory were a series of gentle fingerprints you left behind long ago. A clock hangs on the wall. Its hands rest at 01:06 p.m. They do not move, but the faint hum behind the mechanism feels alive like a sleeping heartbeat. You stand in the room you once waited in, an hour you lived without noticing how delicately it would cling to you, how stubbornly it would refuse to fade. Here, in this soft and suspended place, the waiting begins again, quiet, slow, patient. The hour remembers you. The room greets you with a stillness that feels almost alive, a kind of quiet that has weight but not pressure, like a blanket warmed by sunlight drifting over your shoulders. You take a moment to simply exist here, letting your eyes wander across the space without urgency. Nothing demands your attention. Every detail waits patiently, as though the hour has all the time in the world, and will gladly lend some of it to you. The light from the window is soft and muted, the sort of afternoon light that sifts through the air rather than shining directly. It carries a faint haze, a pale golden mist that settles on the floorboards in uneven patches. Dust moves lazily through it, not falling, not rising, but drifting in small, unhurried arcs. Each mote seems to follow its own slow path, dancing in cycles so gentle they barely qualify as movement. You notice the texture of the wooden floor beneath your feet. It doesn't creak or shift. It merely supports you, silent and steady, with a warmth that suggests it once held many quiet afternoons like this one. The boards are slightly worn at the edges, not from neglect, but from time, the kind of wear that objects accumulate when they've been used softly, consistently, without hurry. A chair stands near the window, angled as if someone had just risen from it a moment before, though the air in the room tells you no one has touched it in a long, long while. The cushion bears a faint indentation, the shape of a presence that once rested there. You feel the echo of that presence, not as a person, not as a figure, but as the gentle after-image of waiting itself. The hour remembers the softness of your posture, the way your arms once rested, the subtle rhythm of your breath as you watch the door or the window, or perhaps nothing at all. On the table beside the chair, a glass of water sits half full. The surface of the water is so still it almost seems solid, reflecting a muted sliver of sunlight. You lean closer without meaning to, drawn by the simplicity of it. There is something endlessly calming about water that hasn't been disturbed in years. Its silence, its patience, its acceptance of the shape it has been given. Beside the glass lies a folded piece of paper. The edges are slightly curled, touched by humidity from a time long past. You cannot read the writing, not because the words are hidden, but because the hour itself has chosen to blur them. What mattered was never the message. What mattered was the act of waiting with it, the presence of possibility lingering in the air, even if nothing eventually came of it. Your gaze drifts to the curtain, thin and pale, swaying with the faintest suggestion of movement. There is no breeze. The window is closed, yet the curtain responds to something. A subtle shift in memory, perhaps, or the small sigh of a moment returning to life. It moves the way thoughts do when you are on the edge of sleep, slowly, gently, without direction, yet full of meaning you don't need to decipher. You look at the clock again. Its hands remain fixed at 01:06 p.m., frozen not by brokenness, but by purpose. This hour is not meant to move forward. It is designed to hold a single emotion, to cradle it softly so you can revisit it without pain. The faint hum behind the clock's mechanism continues. A quiet vibration. You feel more than hear, like the murmur of a distant tide or the steady beat of a heart resting deeply. As you stand in the center of the room, sensations begin to surface, not memories with sharp outlines, but impressions, gentle and blurred. The warmth of sunlight on your forearm, the weight of your hands resting in your lap, the hollow stillness in your chest, not unpleasant, just open, like an unanswered question left on a windowsill. You remember not who you were waiting for, nor why you were waiting. You remember only the shape of waiting itself, patient, soft, and strangely peaceful. Near the far wall, there is a small collection of objects that seem to have gathered themselves over time. A book with a faded spine, the pages slightly uneven from age, a wooden box with no visible hinges, a pencil worn down to half its size. None of these items carry strong meaning on their own, yet together they form a quiet constellation of small possibilities, things you might have reached for, or touched, or considered during that forgotten afternoon. As you draw closer, you notice a subtle warmth lingering near the objects, like the fading memory of a hand that once hovered nearby. Not your hand as it is now, but your hand as it was then, gentle, hesitant, hopeful. The hour does not ask you to remember fully. It only asks you to feel the gentleness that lived in you once and still lives in you now, even if buried beneath years of noise. Everything in this room seems to breathe in slow harmony. The dust, the light, the wood, the muted hum of the clock, all of it arranged around the soft center of waiting. A waiting that was never desperate or painful. A waiting that simply existed because you once believed something small and kind might arrive if you stayed long enough to greet it. The hour is not asking you to recall what that something was. It is only giving you permission to rest in the quiet shape of that moment again. Slow, soft, unhurried. The hour breathes with you, and the room settles a little deeper into its gentle, suspended stillness. For a long moment, nothing in the room seems to move. The light stays steady, warm, and diffused. The dust keeps drifting in slow, delicate spirals. The clock hums quietly, as though breathing in its sleep. But as you stand there, letting your attention soften in every direction at once, you begin to sense something else, something that does not break the stillness, but deepens it, like a second layer of quiet, settling gently over the first. It is not a person, not a figure, not even a memory shaped clearly enough to hold a face. It is more like the faint outline of presence, the emotional silhouette of someone who was once here, waiting the way you once waited, sitting in the very same soft light that now rests against your skin. You feel it the way you feel warmth radiating from a stone that has been lying in the sun, subtle but undeniable. The air gathers slightly in one corner of the room, as though an invisible weight shifts gently from one foot to another. Not a step, not a movement, just a soft reminder that waiting is rarely something we ever do alone, even when we think we are. The hour carries traces of the thoughts you once held, the ones that were too small to survive the rush of the years, but still strong enough to imprint themselves on time. A faint indentation deepens on the cushion of the chair, the same one angled toward the window, and then releases as though someone long ago leaned forward and then settled back again. It is not sudden. It is not eerie in the sharp sense of the word. It is the kind of movement a room makes when it remembers the way you used to sit in it. A gentle reconstruction of posture and presence, not to haunt you, but to welcome you. The curtain stirs again. This time the motion is slower, more deliberate, like a breath drawn in a thoughtful pause. The sunlight through the fabric shifts, stretching a little farther across the floor, brushing your feet with a slight golden warmth. The room reacts as if your return has allowed the frozen moment to move half a step closer to being alive. Not fully, not completely, just enough to remind you that this hour is still capable of awakening. Near the table, the glass of water quivers, not enough to ripple, only enough to catch the light in a new angle. The surface gleams faintly, like an eye opening halfway. The air around it grows warmer, filled with the knowledge of a presence that once sat across from you, perhaps a possibility, perhaps a thought, perhaps someone you wished would appear. But the hour does not force you to remember. It simply lets the shape of that hope drift quietly in the room, softened beyond recognition. As your breathing slows to match the rhythm of the space, a subtle sound reaches you, a small, almost imperceptible shift in the wooden floorboards. Not a creak, not a warning, just the memory of weight settling somewhere behind you. The sound feels familiar, the kind of softness you might associate with someone taking a seat or leaning against a wall to rest while waiting with you. Not impatient, not anxious, just present. You do not turn around. You don't need to. Whatever the presence is, it sits with the same gentleness the hour offers. It doesn't approach. It doesn't recede. It is simply here, sharing the quiet with you. In its company, the room feels fuller, more complete, as though the memory has expanded to include everything you once hoped would accompany you in that small, forgotten moment. Your thoughts drift to the edge of awareness, not forming sentences, only sensations. Soft warmth behind your back, a hush in the air that deepens whenever you exhale, a faint feeling of being seen, not by eyes, but by something much older and calmer, something that knows you only in the shape of your breath and the slow rise and fall of your chest. The clock hums softly, almost content. Its frozen hands seem less like a stopped mechanism and more like a quiet agreement between time and memory. Time will not move forward here because the hour needs you to linger just a little while longer, not to solve anything, not to discover anything, only to share the stillness with the presence beside you. The warmth behind you changes very slightly, as though someone or something shaped by a thought you once had leans closer, not to speak, not to touch, only to acknowledge, to match your calm with its own, to let you know that the waiting you once did was never empty or wasted. It carried weight. It meant something. And even though life moved on, the hour did not forget. You feel a small shift in your chest, the gentlest loosening of something that had been held there for far too long. Not pain, not memory, just a release, a soft exhale of an emotion you never had words for. In this room, in this suspended instant, you are no longer waiting alone. The presence remains beside you, steady and quiet, completing the shape of the hour. The longer you remain in the room, the more natural it feels that this hour has been waiting for you. Not with urgency, not with loneliness, just with the quiet patience of a page left open in a book, trusting that one day your eyes might return to it, if only for a moment. The presence beside you shifts again, so softly it is almost not movement at all, just a deepening of warmth somewhere near your shoulder. You breathe in, and the room seems to breathe with you. The dust in the sunlight moves in slow spirals, rising a little with each inhale, sinking gently with each exhale. The curtain responds as well, swaying in a nearly imperceptible rhythm that echoes the pace of your chest. Everything here is participating in the same quiet act, staying, waiting, existing without demand. The feeling in your chest, the one that loosened a moment ago, continues to soften. It's as if a knot tied long ago has discovered it no longer needs to hold so tightly. Not all at once, no sudden unraveling, but thread by thread, loop by loop, it relaxes. What was once tension becomes space. What was once a tight, unnamed ache becomes a slow, warm heaviness, the kind that invites rest rather than resisting it. In the corner of your mind, you glimpse the faint idea of what you might have been waiting for in this hour. A face, perhaps, a sign, a message, a change that never quite arrived. But the image never sharpens, and that is a mercy. The room does not call you to remember who you waited for or what you hoped would happen. It only asks you to recognize that you did wait once, with a heart open enough to make space for something that never came. The presence beside you seems to understand this without words. It leans into the silence with you, sharing it, absorbing the weight of expectations that were never met. Not to erase them, not to explain them, but to hold them gently, the way someone might cup water in their hands for a little while before letting it fall back into the river. The clock hums on the wall, its hand still fixed at 01:06 p.m. The more you listen, the less it sounds like a mechanism, and the more it sounds like a distant lullaby. A slow, steady, almost imperceptible rhythm that tells you this moment does not have to move forward to be complete. It can remain as it is. It can be enough. You glance toward the table again. The glass of water catches the light in a new way. A narrow streak of brightness sliding along its side like a soft exclamation mark that never quite becomes a sentence. The folded paper beside it seems calmer, as if whatever words were once written there no longer need to be read or answered. The hour is not waiting for resolution anymore. It is only waiting for you to see that it survived. Somewhere near your back, the warmth of the unseen presence expands, spreading gently across your shoulders like a shawl woven from old afternoons and quiet thoughts. You get the sense that this presence is made from pieces of yourself, versions of you that once sat through countless small moments like this one, never realizing they were leaving traces strong enough to be kept in an archive. You hadn't thought of them as important. They weren't the days you celebrated. They weren't the nights you cried. They weren't the milestones anyone else marked. They were the in-between minutes, the soft pauses, the breaths taken between choices. Yet here they are, preserved with as much tenderness as any great turning point. The room seems to lean closer around you, not in a suffocating way, but in a protective one. The walls, the floor, the window, the chair, all of them feel like they're standing guard over this hour, making sure nothing harsh can reach it anymore. Whatever sting waiting once had has been smoothed away, worn down by time into something almost luminous. A thought drifts through you, slow and unforced. It was never useless, that hour. Sitting here, breathing in that small expectation, letting time pass without knowing what would come next. That was a kind of courage, too. A quiet courage. The courage of staying present in a moment that might end in nothing at all. The presence beside you seems to agree. You feel a gentle pressure of attention, as though something is watching over you with a fondness that doesn't need to be returned, doesn't ask for anything in exchange. It is content just to exist beside you, to witness this small reconciliation between who you were then and who you are now. Your body, even in the real room where you lie listening to this story, responds in kind. Muscles release in places you hadn't realized were clenched. Your jaw rests, your hands loosen. Your breathing deepens another fraction, the air entering and leaving your lungs in slow, even waves. Somewhere very far away, the concerns of your current day grow quiet, like a conversation in another room with the door almost closed. In the room of Aura 1:06 p.m., the waiting itself begins to transform. It is no longer a reaching toward something that did not arrive. It becomes instead an offering, a gift of time you gave to possibility, to hope, to maybe. The hour holds that gift carefully, turning it in the soft light, showing you that nothing was truly wasted. The moment was lived, the feeling was real, and that is enough for it to be worthy of keeping. The knot in your chest becomes a gentle weight now, pleasant and grounding. You feel more anchored in your own body and yet lighter at the same time, as if some invisible load has been lifted from your shoulders and placed into the hands of the archive, where it can be held for you whenever you need to rest. The presence at your side settles, matching your stillness. The room inhales with you. The room exhales with you. The hour wraps itself around your awareness like a slow-moving tide, inviting you to sink just a little deeper into its calm. You are not waiting anymore. You are simply here. And for this forgotten hour, that is more than enough. The room grows even quieter, though you would not have thought such a thing possible. The soft presence beside you no longer shifts or moves. It simply rests, a calm shape of warmth holding the air in a gentle balance. Even the dust suspended in the golden light seems to hover more slowly, as if the particles are reluctant to continue their drifting paths, wanting instead to remain in this moment for just a little while longer. Your breathing has fallen into a rhythm so even, so steady, that the room appears to respond to it as though guided by a tide. The sunlight pulses faintly with each inhale, brightening only the smallest amount, then dims slightly with each exhale, settling deeper into its warm, familiar glow. The curtain by the window follows the same pattern, its movement almost imperceptible now, less a sway, more a quiet acknowledgement of your presence. The hour has softened fully. Whatever expectation once lived here, whatever small ache might have bloomed in your chest all those years ago, has lost its sharpness. In its place is a calm acceptance, a recognition that the waiting you once did was part of the gentle architecture of your life. Not a wound, not a failure, simply a moment held open briefly for something that might have come. And though nothing arrived, the hour remained kind. The warmth behind you shifts one last time, not to lean closer, but to ease away, slowly, softly, like someone rising from a chair so carefully that they disturb nothing. The cushion on the seat returns to its original shape. The faint pressure in the air lightens. The presence does not vanish, but disperses, dissolving into the particles of dust, into the golden haze, into the glow on the floorboards. It becomes part of the hour itself again, as though it had only stepped forward to welcome you and is now stepping back to rest. You are left with a sensation of having been accompanied, not by someone specific, but by the memory of being gently witnessed. The walls of the room seem to adjust to this shift. Their edges soften as if they are beginning to blur, not because the room is fading, but because the hour is preparing to return to its place among the hundreds of others that line the archive. Your eyes drift toward the clock. The hands remain frozen at 1:06 p.m., yet something in the hum behind them changes. It grows quieter, withdrawing deeper into the mechanism, returning to that half-sleeping state it existed in before you arrived. It is not shutting down. It is simply conserving itself, preserving what remains of this hour until the next time you are ready to visit. The sunlight in the room changes next. The golden tone begins to thin, like warm tea cooling in a cup, not dimming, not darkening, just becoming lighter, more transparent. The dust in the air glimmers for a moment, as if catching its breath, then begins to drift downward in slow, lazy spirals, returning to the floorboards with barely a sound. Even the warmth on your skin shifts. What once felt like the radiance of a late afternoon now feels softer, as though the room is placing a blanket over itself, preparing to sleep. The wooden floor beneath your feet cools by a degree so slight you almost do not notice it. The chair by the window becomes still in a deeper way, not frozen, but resting, as though the memory of someone having sat there has curled back into itself. You take a breath and realize that the air feels lighter now, as though the hour has exhaled along with you. Its purpose, to return a forgotten softness to your heart, has been quietly fulfilled. It doesn't need to hold itself open anymore. It can close, slowly, like an eyelid lowering at the end of a long, gentle day. The edges of the room begin to blur further. The corners soften. The lines between the table, the chair, the window, and the floor begin to dissolve into one another, like watercolor on wet paper. There is no fear in this unraveling. It is peaceful, natural, the way a dream fades not because it is pushed away, but because it has completed what it came to offer. You stand in the center of the room and feel the last remnants of the hour moving toward stillness. The presence that once sat behind you is now everywhere and nowhere all at once, woven into the air, the light, the quiet. You sense gratitude in it, gentle, wordless gratitude for returning, for remembering, for letting an old, small piece of yourself feel whole again. The room gives one final, subtle shift, like a sigh passing through old wood. Then it waits, patiently, for the archivist to guide you back. The doorway you crossed earlier begins to shimmer again, its outline forming with the same soft glow that welcomed you. It doesn't call you. It doesn't urge you. It simply appears the way a path reveals itself to someone who is ready to walk it without rushing. The hour is ready to be set down. But it will not close until you take one gentle step toward the light. You take a single step toward the doorway, and the room of 01:06 p.m. responds with a subtle dimming of its light, the way an afternoon grows quieter when a cloud drifts lazily across the sun. Nothing disappears abruptly, nothing closes behind you. Instead, the edges of the room soften even more, becoming hazy, becoming suggestion, becoming something your eyes no longer need to hold on to in sharp detail. The moment loosens its fingers around you with grace, releasing you in the same gentle way it had welcomed you. As you move, the floor beneath your feet becomes lighter, less solid, as though the boards were remembering their origins, not as wood, but as memory, formed by impression rather than substance. The air warms under your final breath inside the room, as if offering you a small farewell. There is no sadness in it, only a quiet acknowledgement. This hour has returned to its resting state, and you have been part of its soft, restored shape. The doorway grows brighter the closer you come, not with any harsh intensity, but with a muted glow like sunrise seen through closed eyes. When you pass through it, the transition is seamless. The sensation is not of stepping out, but of being carried, the way a tide lifts something off the sand and draws it into its gentle motion. On the other side, the archive awaits you with its familiar stillness. The corridor stretches in both directions, long and patient, built from the same soft darkness and warm dust you remembered. Yet something feels subtly different now, as if the walls themselves have shifted a hair's breadth to accommodate the hour you just visited. The air is slightly denser, laced with the afterglow of the memory you reawakened. The lantern's golden light appears ahead, steady and unwavering. It glows exactly where you left it, perched on the wooden shelf near the box that held your hour. And beside it, in the same quiet posture, stands the archivist. He does not look surprised to see you step back into the corridor. He simply inclines his head in a small bow, the way ancient caretakers might welcome pilgrims returning from a sacred chamber. His eyes, though still not entirely visible, carry a softness that feels deeper now, as if illuminated by the faint reflection of the hour you've just restored. "You returned gently," he murmurs. His voice is not loud, not soft, just the precise volume the corridor itself seems designed to hold. That is the only way an hour like this can be set down again. He lifts the box that once glowed with your forgotten afternoon. The light inside has faded to a quiet ember, its job complete. When he settles the lid back into place, it clicks with the softest sound, like two leaves touching in the wind. Your name, your older, quieter name, still rests on the lid. For a moment, the inscription brightens with the faintest shimmer, then settles into its neutral glow. The archivist runs one palm lightly across the top, smoothing the invisible dust with a tenderness that feels almost like a blessing. "This hour belongs to you," he says, "but it does not bind you. You may return whenever you wish. It will wait without longing and sleep without fading." He turns and carefully slides the box back into its place on the shelf. The shelves shift almost imperceptibly to receive it, making space with a soft, natural alignment, as though the archive were breathing a satisfied sigh. A ripple of subtle warmth travels along the rows, passing from box to box, like a silent acknowledgement among hours that something has been restored to its resting place. You feel the corridor adjusting around you, the glow of the lantern deepening by a shade, the dust drifting more slowly, the air regaining its ancient equilibrium. Somewhere far down the hall, another box hums very faintly, sensing your presence, though it is not the hour you will visit tonight. The archivist retrieves his lantern and steps closer, not invading your space, but standing near enough for the golden light to brush softly against your hands. Its warmth brings your awareness gently back into your body. The same body that lies resting in the room outside this story, your breathing slow, your muscles settling deeper into whatever surface supports you. There are many forgotten hours here, he says, some heavy, some light, some so small they barely cast shadows, but none of them are lost, not truly. They simply wait for the moment you are quiet enough to hear them again. He turns his lantern slightly, casting a band of warm gold along the corridor. The shelves stretch endlessly into the softly illuminated distance, each box containing a moment once lived, once felt, once set aside. This hour, he adds, was gentle. It always was. And you return to it with gentleness in your steps. That is why it opened for you so easily. The lantern light flickers, not because the flame falters, but because the dust shifts in a slow swirl around it, responding to the archivist's movement. He begins to walk, guiding you a few paces down the corridor. His steps make no sound, yet the floor seems to acknowledge him, the way old wood acknowledges familiar weight. You follow without needing to try. The archive is calm, and so are you. The hour you visited settles behind you like a warm shadow, no longer calling, no longer aching, simply resting, complete, content, and softly sealed. The archivist stops. The lantern glows brighter, hinting at another doorway forming far ahead. From here, he says gently, the path will grow lighter, not shorter, simply gentler. Then he turns back to you. You may rest. The next hour will wait. The archivist lowers his lantern just a little, enough for the golden glow to soften into something quieter, rounder, almost like a single warm breath held cupped between two hands. The corridor around you responds to the dimming light. Shadows lengthen gently, merging with one another, until the archive feels less like a place built from walls and shelves, and more like a slow, living dusk. The hour you visited rests peacefully behind you, sealed away, but not distant. You can feel it settling into its box, as though sinking into a bed of dust-colored velvet, folding itself back into the shape it has always known. There is no pull from it anymore, no echo of longing, only a quiet warmth settled somewhere behind your ribs, a soft imprint of an afternoon that once asked for nothing more than your presence. The archivist turns, and the lantern tilts just enough for the light to fall across your path. The way back is gentle, he says, his voice deepening with the slow gravity of someone who has guided countless travelers through this same safe descent. You will not feel yourself leaving, only drifting. You follow him, but the act of walking becomes less distinct with each step. The ground under your feet grows softer, then lighter, then less solid altogether, as though the floorboards of the archive were turning into woven threads of dusk that unravel behind every footfall. You aren't floating, you aren't sinking. You are simply moving in a direction that asks nothing from you. The shelves on either side begin to fade. Their edges blur first, then their colors, then even their weight in the air. They remain present, but only in the way a memory is present, quiet, unintrusive, content to linger without requiring attention. The archivist's silhouette stays clear, though, a gentle shape cut from warm shadow, his lantern drawing a soft circular path through the dimness. As you breathe, the lantern flickers in harmony with you. On each inhale, its glow expands a little, touching the distant shelves like a tender gesture. On each exhale, the light thins, encouraging the corridor to settle deeper into its own silence. You and the archive breathe together in a rhythm so natural, so slow, that your awareness begins to loosen its ties to the world inside the corridor. When you return, the archivist murmurs, you will not carry the hour as weight, only as ease. The lantern brightens slightly, not a flare, only a soft widening of the glow, as though the flame were nodding in agreement. You will not remember everything clearly, but you will remember how the quiet felt. That is enough. The corridor begins to taper, narrowing gently like the throat of a dream, preparing to blend back into sleep. The air becomes warmer, the dust more golden, the silence deeper. The archivist's footsteps no longer touch the ground. They seem to ring through your awareness instead, low and soothing, like distant notes of a lullaby shaped from time. Ahead, you notice something subtle, the faint outline of your physical body, not visible as a shape, but sensed as an anchor, a point of warmth in a faraway room where your breathing continues to rise and fall in slow, steady waves. The archivist lifts his lantern toward that distant warmth, and the glow leans in its direction, forming a gentle path for you to follow. You do not need to hurry, he says. Sleep is already waiting for you. Your body knows the way. His voice is softer now, almost blending with the hum of the corridor. All you need to do is drift toward yourself. The archivist stops walking, though the corridor continues to move around him, stretching outward into a long, warm tunnel that dissolves into the faint sensation of your bed, your pillow, the place where your real body rests. He holds the lantern a little higher, letting its golden light reach toward the thinning edge of the archive. This part, he whispers, is only sinking, nothing more. You feel it start immediately. The soft gravity beneath you thickens, not heavy, not pulling, only inviting. Your limbs in the physical world grow denser, heavier, more comfortably rooted. The air around your resting body becomes warmer, holding your weight with the same softness the archive held your hour. The archivist closes his free hand around the lantern, and the glow dims to a small, steady ember. You may return whenever you wish, he tells you, though his voice is now so distant and low, it seems to come from within your own chest. There will always be another hour waiting. The ember fades to a faint gleam. The corridor dissolves into warm darkness. Your awareness loosens, sinking downward through layers of quiet. The last thing you sense of the archive is a gentle hum, ancient, patient, soft, carrying you back toward the warmth of your body. And then, with no effort at all, you begin to drift into deeper rest. The last traces of the archive fade into a warm, velvety dusk, the kind that holds no direction, no edges, no sense of distance, just softness, just depth, just the gentle pull of rest settling over you like a long exhaled breath. The place where you stand, or where you think you stand, dissolves into a slow floating weightlessness, as though time has finally unclenched its hand from around the hour you visited and is allowing every part of you to loosen in response. Somewhere behind you, so far it feels like another lifetime, the archivist lowers his lantern for the final time tonight. You cannot see him anymore, but you feel the echo of his presence. Calm, ancient, unhurried. It lingers in the quiet the way a memory lingers on the skin, so soft it doesn't break the surface. His voice is not audible now, but the intention of it reaches you, a silent reassurance, an almost whisper woven into the warm dark, settling over your senses. You may return, but you do not need to. Not now, not for a long while. Your body, lying in the real world, has grown heavier by degrees, not weighed down, supported, cradled. The mattress or couch or resting place beneath you feels broader, as though it has expanded to catch every inch of your weight. Your limbs are no longer asking for instruction. They are quiet, obedient to gravity, falling into a natural stillness too deep to disturb. The air around your face warms with each slow breath you release. Your exhales stretch longer than you expect, melting into the surrounding silence until the boundary between breath and room begins to blur. The muscles behind your eyes soften. The delicate cluster of tension at your temples dissolves like a grain of sugar in warm water. Even the small muscles along your throat and jaw, the ones that often hold more stress than you realize, release quietly into the space around you. You drift deeper. The shapes of your thoughts grow faint, turning from sentences into impressions, from impressions into distant murmurs, from murmurs into nothing at all. Each passing moment takes you one layer further from waking, a slow descent, a gentle sinking, a returning to something older than memory. There is no effort in this, only gravity, soft and patient, guiding you down. Around you, the darkness breathes. It expands and contracts with your chest. Not ominous, not empty, just vast, ancient, kind. A silence that holds you rather than swallows you. A silence that knows the shape of your rest. You feel the warmth of the hour you visited still lingering somewhere inside your body. Not in your mind, not in your thoughts, but in a place deeper than either. A small, gentle weight under your ribs. A reminder that even the quietest moments of your life can become something sacred when you return to them with softness. That the time you spent waiting once long ago has now become a balm, an anchor, a steadying pulse guiding you toward deeper sleep. The sensation spreads slowly, like comfort unfurling itself through your chest, then your belly, then your legs, then your fingertips. The warmth does not rise. It settles. It drifts lower with each breath, aligning itself with the slow sinking of your awareness. Your breathing becomes quieter, almost whisper thin. Inhale, and the world gathers softly around you. Exhale, and something inside you slides deeper into rest. Your mind begins to dim, not abruptly, not completely, just enough for the world to blur into a dreamlike haze. Images fade, thoughts unravel, time stretches, then loosens, then disappears altogether. You float, you sink, you dissolve into yourself. The archivist's lantern glows one last time in the far distance, not for you to return to, but to let you know that the archive remains, patient and silent, holding its hours in dust and gold. A place you may enter again on another night, when the heaviness of the world feels too sharp, and you need to remember the softness inside forgotten moments. But for now, all of it drifts away. The corridor, the lantern, the shelves of quiet boxes. The hour of a 1:06 p.m., even the presence that kept you company. All of it becomes a single gentle warmth sinking into the deepest part of your rest. Your breath slows to its quietest rhythm. Your thoughts thin into threads, then into nothing. Your awareness fades like a candle dimming inside a glass jar. There is no door to close, no ending to mark, only this slow, steady fading, this quiet surrender, this gentle descent into deep, uninterrupted sleep. And as you drift deeper and deeper, the world grows softer, darker, quieter, until finally there is only rest. The darkness around you softens even further, losing the last traces of shape and boundary. Nothing is defined here. Nothing has edges. It is the space between sleep and something deeper. A quiet haze where thoughts drift like faint silhouettes and dissolve before they can form. Your awareness floats in slow spirals, rising and falling with your breath. Not enough to wake you, not enough to ground you, only enough to let you sense that you are no longer in the archive, no longer in the room where your body rests, but in a softer place that lies between. Textures of memory drift by, blurred beyond recognition. A glimmer of light, a wooden floor, a faint hum that may or may not be the echo of the archivist's lantern. They appear only long enough for your mind to register warmth before fading into the gray-blue mist rolling gently around you. You do not reach for anything. Nothing reaches for you. You simply drift. And the fog holds you without weight, without direction, without expectation. Just drifting. Just sinking, just resting. As you shift deeper, the fog thins into something smoother, like a wide, open field made entirely of breath. Every inhale expands the space slightly, creating a soft ripple beneath you. Every exhale flattens it into stillness again. The motion is subtle, rhythmic, ancient, as though you have stepped into a landscape shaped by the breathing of countless nights before this one. Each breath aligns with yours, not in perfect synchronicity, but in a slow, harmonious pattern that feels older than memory. Your body grows heavier, your thoughts grow fewer. Your awareness narrows to a warm, pulsing center somewhere deep inside your chest. There is no light here, no sound, only the slow roll of breath beneath you, rising, falling, rising, falling. Every cycle draws you further inward, deeper downward, into a place where even dreams have not yet formed. You feel the shift before you sense it. The breath beneath you fades into an even quieter layer, one that does not move. A stillness so complete, so absolute, that your mind cannot tell whether it has stopped sensing or has started sensing something more subtle. This is the layer beneath rest, the soft underside of quiet, the place that exists only when the body begins to surrender fully. Your limbs feel distant. Your thoughts are no longer thoughts, only drifting shadows. Your breath becomes a thin thread of warmth, moving in and out of a darkness so soft it feels like velvet pressed gently against your skin. The stillness is not empty. It is full, full of calm, full of softness, full of the ancient quiet that lies beneath every night. Here, you do not drift, you settle, slowly, gently, completely. As you descend further, the stillness takes shape, not as a place, but as a feeling. A warm hollow opens around you, deep and comforting, like lying inside the curve of the world itself. The darkness wraps around you like folded arms, loose and spacious, offering a cradle without walls. There is nothing to see, nothing to analyze, nothing to remember, only warmth, a warmth that spreads outward from your chest, into your shoulders, down your arms, through your ribs, into your hips, along your legs, all the way to your toes. A warmth that needs no source, a warmth that simply exists, a warmth that welcomes you deeper than thought, deeper than memory, deeper than dreaming. You are no longer sinking, you are floating inside rest, suspended, supported, safe. The edges of your awareness fade like distant lanterns slowly dimming one by one. The last traces of conscious thought drift outward, dissolving into the dark as gently as dust falling through quiet sunlight. Your breath becomes soft enough that it feels borrowed from the night around you. Your heartbeat slows until each thump feels like a pulse moving through warm earth. Your mind untethers itself from waking, drifting into a deep, dreamless quiet. There is no story now, no archivist, no archive, no hour, only the soft continuation of rest. A long, deep exhale folds the darkness around you, and then nothing, only sleep. Thick, warm, ancient sleep. A depth that holds you without weight, without thought, without sound, without end. The darkness thickens around you, settling into a slow-moving tide that rises and falls without touching your skin. You don't feel the motion directly. You sense it from within, as though your body itself has become part of that rhythm. Each breath echoes through the tide, slow enough to stretch across minutes, soft enough to melt into the deep. You drift inward, not down, not forward, just inward, into a quiet center that has no boundaries and no weight. Here, even dreams hesitate to form. They wait at a distance, gathering themselves like clouds beyond a horizon. You are not ready for them yet. You are still moving, deeper, 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 into the tide's quiet pull. Nothing approaches, nothing calls you. The night simply holds you. A passage opens, not with light, not with shape, but with the subtle sensation of space widening around your mind. It feels like walking into a hallway made of silence, except you are not walking, and the hallway is not made of anything you can touch. This place is smoother, darker, heavier, a darkness not of fear, but of rest. A darkness that asks nothing from you. Your breathing becomes shallow now, the kind that comes only when the body is approaching the threshold of dreamless sleep. Your limbs fall out of awareness, dissolving into the warm black around you. Your thoughts drift farther apart, each one growing fainter than the last, until they become small, distant embers suspended in an endless room. You do not chase them. You do not need them. All that remains is the passage and the soft pull leading you further inside its unlit depths. Time begins to loosen, then unspool. It does not disappear. It simply becomes irrelevant, a soft fabric slipping through open hands. Seconds stretch, minutes blur, everything folds into one long, warm moment. You feel yourself floating in a pool where time has sunk to the bottom, no longer moving, no longer guiding anything. In this space, your body stops expecting the next breath. It simply receives it. Your mind stops expecting the next thought. It simply lets them fade. Even the faintest sense of now relaxes, collapsing softly inward until the entire concept becomes a dim, distant glow dissolving into the dark. You drift beyond time, not lost, not wandering, just resting where time cannot follow. A deeper silence rises, so complete it feels physical, like sinking through layers of soft fabric that grow thicker and warmer the further you descend. The silence here is not empty. It has weight, temperature, patience. It welcomes you with the quiet gravity of something ancient and familiar. Your breath is almost imperceptible now. Your heartbeat fades into the background, steady and slow. Your body becomes a warm shadow floating in a soundless expanse. If there are dreams nearby, they remain silent, waiting respectfully at the edge of your rest. This depth is not for them. This depth belongs only to sleep, pure, heavy, uninterrupted sleep. You drift lower still, lower than thought, lower than sensation, lower than memory, into a silence that holds you the way deep water holds a stone. Gently, fully, patiently, you reach the center. Not a destination, not a place, but a state, the quiet core hidden beneath every night, where the body restores itself and the mind dissolves into dark warmth. Here, awareness folds inward like petals closing at dusk. There is no story left, no voice, no archive, no echoes. Only the slow, steady blackness that rises like warm smoke around your thoughts. Your breathing becomes a distant hum. Your heartbeat drifts into the dark. Your consciousness softens until it becomes nothing more than a faint glow sinking into the quiet. And then, very gently, even that glow fades. You do not notice the moment it happens. You only feel the night closing around you, soft as velvet, deep as sleep itself, holding you without weight, without sound, without end. Here, in the quiet core, you disappear into perfect rest. The night beneath you becomes flatter, smoother, quieter. There is no drift now, only settling. You reach a floor made not of substance, but of pure stillness, a place where the mind no longer floats or sinks, but simply rests. The darkness here has no depth, no ceiling, no weight. It lies around you like an endless sheet of warm velvet. Your thoughts, already thin, dissolve further until they resemble faint impressions rather than ideas, a color, a soundless echo, a forgotten shape. Each one appears briefly, then melts into the soft black around you before you can grasp it. You do not try to hold anything. Nothing asks to be held. This is the level where the body begins the slow work of healing, far beneath awareness, far beneath dreaming. You are only a breath, drifting through a layer of night so gentle it barely exists at all. Something subtle shifts in the dark, not movement, not sound, but meaning. Your name, the one you carry in waking life, loosens slightly. Not forgotten, just less relevant here. Identity is a waking concept. The night asks for something simpler. You feel the idea of you becoming softer, rounding at the edges, losing its sharp daytime outline. Not disappearing, just resting, just sleeping, just becoming a faint warmth in the center of the dark instead of a shape defined by memory. In this hollow, even the self is allowed to exhale. Nothing is required of you, nothing is expected from you. You simply exist, quiet, warm, unburdened. The night holds you without needing to know your name. Somewhere far away, so far it feels like another universe, the earth turns. You do not hear it, you do not feel it, but its motion drifts through this deep layer of sleep as a slow, ancient rhythm, like a giant breath that has been repeating for millions of years. A rhythm older than memory, older than humanity, older than dreaming itself. Your body aligns with that rhythm, settling deeper into the planet's gentle pull. The warmth beneath you becomes the warmth of soil. The darkness around you becomes the quiet between stars. The heaviness in your limbs becomes the weight of stones resting for centuries. It is not metaphor, it is instinct. You are sinking into the same silence everything sinks into eventually. A natural silence, a patient silence, a silence that has always been waiting for you. There is a point in sleep where even the idea of night disappears. You reach that point now. The darkness is no longer black. It is simply absence. Absence of time. Absence of memory. Absence of shape. Absence of everything except warmth. You do not drift anymore. You do not sense depth. You do not sense direction. Only a single soft pressure surrounding you, like being held under layers of blanket so heavy and warm that the world above fades into nothingness. This is the deepest point, the point where the body repairs, the point where the mind empties, the point where thought no longer attempts to rise. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to follow, nothing left to hear. Only this dark, this warmth, this perfect rest, somewhere far above, beyond the dreamless layers, beyond the stillness, beyond the quiet core. The archivist's lantern glows softly. You do not rise toward it. You do not return. The light is not calling you. It is only marking the end. The hour of 01:06 p.m. closes gently, folding itself into the archive like a page being turned by a patient, ancient hand. There is no sound, no final note, no farewell. It simply settles and sleeps and waits. You feel this closure not as thought, but as a warmth passing through your chest, a soft understanding that the hour is complete and will rest until another night. The archivist, somewhere in the golden dust of the archive, lowers his lantern, not to dismiss you, not to send you away, but to honor the quiet you have entered. Your sleep deepens one last time, sinking fully into a night without edges, without memory, without story. And as the hour closes, the world fades, your breath softens, your body becomes still, and you drift into perfect, silent, healing sleep. You drift through a space where even dreams grow thin, not absent, just distant. The darkness becomes lighter in temperature, almost cool against the quiet hum of your resting mind. This layer feels like a slow exhale from beneath the world, a soft release that rises through you without asking for effort or attention. Your body is far above now, so far you cannot sense its weight. Only warmth, only a faint pulse drifting through velvet dark, only a steady quiet that moves through you like a tide without waves. You do not float, you simply are. This is the underdream layer, where awareness loosens its final threads, preparing to slip fully into sleep's deepest chambers. Nothing forms, nothing dissolves. Everything simply rests. Below the underdream layer lies a river made not of water, but of darkness so thick and still that it feels carved from silence. You do not see it. You sense it the way you sense warmth behind closed eyes. This river does not flow. It does not ripple. It simply exists, ancient and unchanging. As you sink toward it, your breathing slows again, taking on a rhythm older than memory. Your heartbeat softens until each pulse feels like a distant drum buried beneath layers of night. When you reach the surface of the river, you do not touch it. You become part of its stillness. The dark holds your shape gently, dissolving your edges until your awareness spreads out like ink, drifting into calm water. No thoughts remain, no images pass by. Only a long, slow quiet that deepens with every breath. Something subtle pulls you lower, not a force, not a direction, but a gentle persuasion, like gravity, that has grown patient and soft. You follow it naturally, without choice, without hesitation. Here the darkness grows warmer, heavier, denser, not oppressive, comforting, not weighty, protective. This is the heart of quiet gravity, where everything that sinks finds rest. You feel your awareness settling like grains of sand drifting into the lowest part of a vast, ancient basin. Nothing stirs here, nothing rises, nothing interrupts the downward drift. Your sleeping mind folds inward, becoming smaller, quieter, softer. Breath becomes a whisper. Thought becomes vapor. You become a warm point of silence, sinking into deeper silence. Below, even gravity's heart, lies a hollow so deep, so quiet, that dreaming itself avoids it. This is the dreamless basin, a resting place older than time, untouched by memory, untouched by emotion. You enter it slowly, like a shadow sliding across smooth stone. There is no top, no bottom, no sense of falling, only settling, 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 like fine dust drifting onto a surface that has been waiting for ages. Your awareness thins to a faint glow. Your breath becomes a slow, low tide. Your heartbeat moves through you like distant echo. Nothing tries to form here. Nothing tries to speak. Nothing tries to rise. This is the purest state of rest, the place where the mind heals, the body repairs, and the world releases its hold on you completely. You are held without being touched, warm without a source, quiet without trying. You reach the deepest layer. There is no motion, no shape, no sound, no expectation, only a soft, infinite dark that receives you with the gentleness of warm earth, a place where the last traces of awareness loosen like threads slipping from a weaver's fingers. Your breath becomes the faintest brush of air. Your body disappears into weightless warmth. Your mind releases its final ember of thought, letting it drift away into the surrounding black. And then, nothing. Not emptiness, not loss. Just the perfect, ancient stillness that lies beneath every night, waiting for the moment when you are ready to surrender to it fully. You do not sink. You do not sleep. You dissolve into rest, whole, silent, unbroken. The hour above you closes like a petal folding at dusk, and the night holds you completely. The night around you settles into its quiet shape, a silence without edges, a warmth without source, a darkness that holds you the way soft earth holds the roots of sleeping trees. Nothing rises now, nothing drifts, nothing stirs. Your breath has found the slow rhythm of deep night, steady and low, a tide that moves through you without asking anything in return. Far above, the archive grows faint, not because it has vanished, but because you have drifted too deeply into rest to sense its distant glow. The lantern, the shelves, the hour you visited, all of it folds gently behind the curtain of sleep. There is no need to remember, no need to return. Not now, not for a long while. Tonight, the night itself watches over you, quiet and patient, carrying your rest with the softness of an ancient cradle. If thoughts come, they will dissolve. If dreams arrive, they will form without effort. If sleep deepens, it will deepen on its own. You are safe here. You are warm here. You are held here. Let the last traces of waking fade. Let the darkness close softly around your breath. Let the quiet settle over your chest like a slow falling blanket, and allow yourself to drift even deeper into rest. Good night. Good rest. And may the lost hours keep their gentle watch over you until morning comes.